In the Gospel of Mark, the connection between the Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, and Jesus as the fulfillment of the Messiah is central to its message. Mark presents Jesus not only as a teacher but as the fulfillment of biblical prophecies, emphasizing Jesus as the long-awaited Messiah, whose life, death, and resurrection are the culmination of God's promises to Israel. Mark frequently highlights Jesus' authority in ways that resonate with the Torah. For instance, when Jesus forgives sins, Mark 2 verses 5 to 12, or interprets the Sabbath, Mark 2 verses 27 to 28. He's showing authority that, according to biblical commandments, belonged only to God. Mark's portrayal suggests that Jesus is not abolishing the Torah but fulfilling its ultimate purpose by revealing God's intentions directly to humanity. Mark presents Jesus' miracles as signs that align with messianic prophecies in the Hebrew Scriptures. When Jesus heals the blind, the sick, and even raises the dead, Mark 5 verses 41 to 42, 10 to 46-52. These acts echo promises in the Torah and prophetic books that the Messiah would bring restoration and healing to Israel. This positions Jesus as the agent of God's promised redemption. In Mark 10 verse 45, Jesus describes his mission. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. This connects Jesus to the suffering servant described in Isaiah 53, who would bear the iniquities of others. Although Isaiah is not part of the Torah, Mark's Jewish audience would recognize this figure as the Messiah who fulfills the deeper purposes of the Torah by atoning for humanity's sins. The Last Supper, which occurs during Passover, Mark 14 verses 12 to 25, links Jesus directly to the sacrificial lamb of the Torah's Passover tradition. By identifying the bread and wine with his body and blood, Jesus fulfills the Passover's symbolism of liberation from bondage. This time, not from Egypt, but from sin and death. His crucifixion becomes the ultimate Passover sacrifice, fulfilling the Torah's requirements for atonement. In Mark 11, Jesus enters Jerusalem on a donkey, echoing Zechariah 9 verse 9 and Davidic imagery associated with the Messiah. Although David's story isn't in the Torah, this connection underscores that Jesus fulfills God's promise to Israel's greatest king and aligns with expectations set forth in the Hebrew Bible about the Torah's ultimate purpose of pointing Israel to the Messiah. In these ways, Mark portrays Jesus as the living Torah, the Word made flesh, who fulfills God's covenant and promises. Jesus is shown not just as a teacher of the law, but as the embodiment of its fulfillment, bringing a new covenant that completes and transcends the old. The Gospel of Mark contains several passages that emphasize a rejection of paganism, underscoring a commitment to the monotheistic beliefs and values of the Torah. Here are a few examples. Jesus' authority over demons. In Mark, Jesus consistently demonstrates authority over demons, such as in Mark 5 verses 1 to 20, where he casts out the legion of demons. In the ancient world, demons were often associated with pagan beliefs and idol worship. By casting them out, Mark portrays Jesus as rejecting and overpowering pagan powers, affirming the supremacy of God, denouncing idolatry. In Mark 12 verses 29 to 30, Jesus affirms the Shema, the core Jewish declaration of monotheism from Deuteronomy, saying, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." This emphasizes the exclusive worship of the one true God, rejecting the polytheistic worship central to paganism, clearing the temple of pagan influence. When Jesus drives out the money changers and merchants from the temple in Mark 11 verses 15 to 17, he quotes Isaiah, declaring that the temple should be a house of prayer for all nations. By cleansing it of inappropriate practices that mirrored pagan trading activities, Jesus reaffirms the temple's holiness and separates it from pagan practices. Condemnation of pagan practices and symbols. Mark's Gospel condemns the pagan practices that surrounded the Roman Empire, symbolized by references to unclean spirits and the critique of practices like those at Decapolis, a Hellenistic, pagan-influenced region, Mark 7 verse 31. By emphasizing the opposition between Jesus' mission and these practices, Mark advocates a return to the monotheistic values of the Torah. Roman authorities as representations of pagan rule. Throughout Mark, the Roman authorities are often depicted as antagonistic figures. For instance, Pilate's interrogation of Jesus in Mark 15 portrays a conflict between Jesus, representing the kingdom of God, and the pagan Roman authorities. By positioning Jesus against these pagan rulers, Mark emphasizes the superiority of God's kingdom over earthly pagan powers. These passages highlight Mark's rejection of pagan practices and beliefs, reinforcing a commitment to monotheism and the Torah's ethical and spiritual principles. Until next post, Shalom, keep seeking the truth.